Good evening, everyone. I'm privileged to welcome the speaker of the day, Mrs. Muthu Lakshmi, nutritional consultant, founder, and senior nutritionist, NutriZone Holistic Clinic. She has completed her graduation in nutrition and dietetics from Anna Adarsh College. She has also completed her Masters of Health Science in Applied Nutrition from Annamalai University, postgraduate diploma in clinical nutrition from Sri Ramachandra Medical College. She is level 1 certified kinanthropometrist from New Zealand and also level 1 certified performance nutritionist from CHFI Australia. Welcome, madam.
Thank you, ma'am.
I also welcome the Secretary Sir, Madam Correspondent, Principal Madam, Vice Principal Madam, staff, students and public of this webinar. Over to you, Madam.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. And I'm very happy that today you have given me the opportunity to address the senior most members of the school. So it's a great thing. So today I'm just going to talk about a very general topic, which if we give utmost importance on our day-to-day life, if we focus a little bit on all that, we definitely can be healthy. So all of us do go to professionals, we do go to a doctor, we meet physiotherapists, we meet nutritionists. So there are a lot of lifestyle changes that's happening, and the sleep pattern has changed, the way we eat is changed. So there are so many things that's happening on a day-to-day basis. So when even before we could go to a professional, how can you understand your body is what I'm going to try to emphasize. And also when you come to a nutritionist, what are the important things that is being highlighted to you as a client by us. So in general, if we see, there are a few things that you need to have in mind to understand that your body is actually functioning well. Number one is your sleep. So it is very, very important that all of us get a good quality sleep. I'm not talking about the number of hours, but I'm speaking about the quality of the sleep that you give to your body. A minimum of 6 hours. And that also, I would more specifically say that you need to sleep between 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. So that's the time where the body takes, good amount of time to self-repair itself. So generally, people do go to bed very early. Say 9 o'clock, they go to bed and they wake up next day morning 7 a.m. only. But then if you ask them, did they have a refreshing sleep? Are they feeling fine? They'll say, no, I'm feeling very tired. I had a very disturbed sleep. Or I kept waking up in the night to drink water or to use the restroom. So this 10 to 4 a.m., why I'm being very specific is, from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is the time where the body does the physical repair. That is, we use all the muscles in our body, and we sit, we walk, we do a lot of work. So the physical repair takes place from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. is where the mental repair takes place. So that's why people are a little cranky when they don't sleep. Suddenly you have a bad dream, you wake up, they are awake from 2 o'clock and then they fall asleep by 4:35. Next day, if you see, they are in a very cranky mood. That's because it is compulsory that our body and our mind should go through the repair on a daily basis for us to push ourselves for the next day's activity. So it's very important we all have a good quality sleep, especially from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. So if you want to sleep, try to stay away from your gadgets, TV, mobile phone, all of it 1 hour prior to your bedtime. Okay, reading a book is good, but reading from a Kindle or something like that is definitely not good. So do not expose yourself to any kind of an artificial light, because it totally changes your body's circadian rhythm. Okay, so the body will think, if you're going to expose too much of light, so the body will think that, okay, it's still not, the sun is still not set, so I think we still have to be active. If I don't know whether all of you experienced it, you're very sleepy by 8 p.m. or something, but there'll be something on TV, we push ourselves, or by 9 o'clock we push ourselves to watch it, by 10 we are very brisk and active. So that's because the circadian rhythm of your body is being totally changed, because you have exposed yourself to so much of a light from the TV or from your mobile phone or from your laptop or anything. So number one is, if you are sleeping well, and if you are sleeping really well from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., and you will definitely see a good change in the next day morning. You will feel very fresh. You will feel active. So that's number one. Number two is motion. All of us have to pass motion every day morning. Okay. When somebody wakes up and that's the first thing that they do, then your body and your gut is functioning really well. If someone has to drink a coffee, or you have to drink a lot of water, or you will only pass motion in the afternoon or in the evening, then which means your GI tract is absolutely conked up. So there's something that you really need to work on, that's the first sign. If you're able to wake up and straight go to the restroom, which means your body is working really fine. Your digestive system is working absolutely fine. So number three is your thirst. Okay, so you have to keep drinking water, even if you're not thirsty, well hydrated. Probably I should put it in the other way. Keeping yourself well hydrated. So if you are drinking ample amount of water, and if your urine is not yellow in color, okay, yellow urine means you're dehydrated. It's concentrated. So if your urine, you're able to pass urine, and if it is not concentrated and you don't have any burning sensation or something, which means yes, then it's really good. So number four is, you're not falling sick too often. That's the way you will understand that your immunity is really good. You're not falling sick too often. You're not popping in pills. Let it be even simplest of a headache. Headache is something that's very common, but if you are perfectly all right, then even that headache doesn't come. You will be able to push yourself and work. So immunity, not falling too sick, and then being active. End of the day, you work from, say, morning 8 o'clock till evening 4 p.m. And by 6 p.m., if you're able to go for a nice relaxed walk, or you are hitting the gym, or you're doing yoga, and yet you don't find yourself very sloppy, tired, fatigued, then yes, you are active. And so these are the 5 parameters that you can really note about yourself, to know that your body is working really fine. You are towards the proper direction of it. Either one of this is also not fine, then definitely you need to work on yourself. So this is self-analysis. So now you are coming to a nutritionist, and the most common reason with which I see clients today is for weight loss. So weight loss is the major problem, especially during lockdown. But lockdown, yes, we saw it in 50-50 proportion, because there were people who had a lot of time. So they focused more on their food habits, eating pattern. And yes, we did not have access to restaurants and other outside foods. So we were forced to stick on to traditional foods. We were forced to stick on to portion size, because we can't go out too much. So that was the positive thing about lockdown. Yes, there was a negative side wherein people were not physically active. They were couch potatoes, because all of us have to work using this one stupid box, the laptop. So we were not even moving around. We are stuck to this one. We are stuck to one place, and people are not hydrating themselves, sitting in one place and munching and trying and people started pushing in too much of caffeine to keep themselves active and awake. So there were the positives and the negative sides. So when people gained weight, put on weight, so there were few people who said that, they had a portion control. They did go for little walking. Inside my apartment, I worked out, I hit the gym. But weight I did not lose weight. So that was one common thing that came to us. So it's a very it's a myth today that if I reduce my portion size, I will lose weight. Yes, you will lose weight, no doubt about it. But the result may not be consistent. Just by reducing the portion size randomly, you will not be able to see much result. So what are the other hidden factors which we fail to understand is one is body composition, another one is your biochemistry. So body composition as in just by standing on a weighing machine, seeing your weight, okay, today I'm 90 kilos, I want to reduce it to 80, I want to reduce it to 70. See, that's a very random goal anybody can have. So that 90 kgs, in that 90 kgs, how many percentage of fat you should burn? Because burning fat is the correct way of losing weight. I can make a client lose weight by breaking down the proteins, or I can make them lose water from body, water loss, and even I can show 3 kgs of weight loss also in just 2 days by totally sucking out all the water from them. But what happens is when they shift back to their original diet pattern that they were usually following, they bounce back. So you have to really understand the body composition. So you have to understand how much of total body fat you have. What is the visceral fat percentage that you have? Visceral fat is nothing but your fat around the organs. So each organ has some amount of fat surrounded around it for a protective function. So it acts as a cushioning so that there is no physical damage to that particular organ. But when your diet and when your activity levels are not correct, when you're not giving your body good nutrients, then what happens is there is fat accumulation happening. So the fat starts accumulating around your organs also. So when there is more of fat, so the normal visceral fat percentage should be less than 9 for anybody. Let it be man or woman, the normal visceral fat percentage should be less than 9. If it's more than 9, what happens is the organs get compressed and they start becoming sluggish. So when they become sluggish, it directly hits on your metabolism. So when your metabolism is hit, what happens? Your macronutrients, which is your carbohydrate, protein, fat, the digestion and absorption process doesn't happen correctly. So anything that's not being utilized by the body cells, they are getting converted as fat and they get stored in your adipose tissue. So that's how somebody who's having high amount of visceral fat can gain weight. Okay. So the other component is your subcutaneous fat. So the fat below your skin, and below that is your muscle layer. So for anybody who is who wants to be really fit, their subcutaneous and their muscle mass should be in a ratio of 1:1. If you really want to be very fit, then subcutaneous should be 1 and your muscle mass should be in a proportion of 1:2. So that's when you will be able to be more stronger, lighter, and the metabolism is also fine. So this is with regards to your body composition. So if you have any one of these fat parameters on a higher side, which means you are going to be gaining weight and your metabolism is going to become sluggish as and when there is more and more of fat accumulation happening in the body. So this is done using a small machine. It's like a scan machine types. So you just have to stand on top of it and we will be able to measure all of these parameters. And based on this, the old school method is calculating the body mass index. Okay, old school is body mass index. Whereas today we can't go with body mass index because body mass index takes into account the weight of bones, your organs, the body fluids, everything. So so just by categorizing a person, okay, this person according to BMI is falling under grade 1 obesity or grade 2 obesity, it doesn't. Because if I'm going to bring a bodybuilder, he has more of muscle and very less, he has to have his fat percentage less than 10. So in that case, that guy will have more of muscle. So muscles also have weight, right? So he'll be 110 kgs because he's going to go for a Mr. India or some competition like that. So he's built his body so well. So if I'm going to calculate that guy's BMI, it will categorize him as obese only, because his height might be some 170 centimeters and his weight must be around 110 kg. So definitely the height and weight doesn't really match. So going with BMI is more of old school, which we don't really practice these days. We like to look into the client's fat percentage, visceral fat percentage, muscle mass, subcutaneous fat, all of these, and then we set goals. So how many percentage of fat? So you only when you hit fat in your body, you don't really bounce back, right? So when you're going to be hitting your muscle or you're going to be hitting on your water content, then it's not going to help you, because you will anyways bounce back to it. So this is one side of it. The other side of it is your biochemical. We generally ask clients to take blood tests. So the first question is, "Enna madam, you're going to give me a diet chart. I'm going to follow it. So I'm going to lose weight. So why should I go do a blood test? I don't have any disease." See, blood test is not done only when you fall sick. So you need to understand that it's just not about the weight, but it is also about your blood chemistry. So if you don't have a proper, levels of everything in your body, electrolytes, sugar levels, lipid levels, protein levels, and your micronutrients like your vitamins and minerals, all of these have to be under the normal range for your body to function very well. See, otherwise God need not have created all of it, right? So there are certain specific tests that you can do. If you are doing excellent diet, if you're doing excellent workout, and none of it is excellent workout and none of it is happening, you're not losing weight at all, then which means there is something wrong in your blood chemistry. So you need to analyze which is the component that's hitting. So we generally ask the clients to take a hemoglobin test, because we all know hemoglobin's major function is to carry nutrients and oxygen to all over the body. So when there is lack of hemoglobin in the body, if you're eating, say one carbs, meal. So you're taking say for example white bread, and there is X amount of carbs that has to be carried. So carbs get converted as glucose. So that glucose should be carried around the body. So it gets fixed itself to a hemoglobin, right? So when there is only say 50 units of hemoglobin, but there are 100 units of glucose to be carried. So only 50 can carry 50 glucose. So what happens to the rest 50? So the brain knows to process it in only one way. Okay, if this particular nutrient is not being utilized, okay, let me store it. Okay, it can't loiter around the blood. Let me convert it as fat and store it. Let me convert it as glycogen and store it. So glucose first gets converted as glycogen. So the liver can store only some amount of glycogen. So the rest of it gets stored as fat. So that's why we get belly fat, a lot of fat around our hips. People have very, fat arms. So that's what happens. So hemoglobin, iron, these two, we ask them to measure. If it is less, it is very important you correct the anemia. Only when you correct anemia, the nutrient that's been given to the body gets transported to all the cells and it gets utilized. If it's not utilized, then yes, you will put on weight. So the other factor is thyroid. Thyroid is another very common thing. Thyroid is more common among women compared to men. And hypothyroidism is very, very common compared to hyperthyroidism. So thyroid gland is the king of the endocrine glands. So thyroid gland will decide which are the hormones that has to be secreted. When there is calcium, which hormone should come? Take it and put it in the bones. So when there is glucose, it will have to signal insulin to come out of the body and maintain the blood glucose level. So thyroid is like king of endocrine glands. So when the leader is not there, there is haphazard functioning happening in the body, right? None of the hormones will know what they are supposed to do. So the metabolism ultimately gets affected, and end of it, carbs, protein, fat, if not utilized, they again get stored and we put on weight. That's why it's a very common symptoms which a hypothyroid person tells that they are putting on weight. They gradually gain weight. So that's the reason. So that's very common. So you have to ask someone who's if they don't know the reason why they're gaining weight. They're feeling very tired. They're always feeling fatigued. They always feel very sleepy. Even after they eat good food, they don't feel energetic. In that case, you can just tell them, why don't you go check your thyroid? So sometimes thyroid can be a hidden factor. So the other blood test that we look into is your vitamin D and vitamin B12. So vitamin B12 is a very important vitamin because it acts as a buffer for your carbohydrate metabolism. So that is the glucose will get converted as ATP. ATP is the form which the body understands. Like how when we type in a laptop, we type it as alphabets, but the CPU understands it as zeros and ones, right? So same way, if you need carbohydrate, protein, fat, anything, the body will understand it only as ATP. That's the energy form that we give. So for this glucose to go and get converted as ATP, it needs vitamin B12 as a buffer. So when vitamin B12 deficiency is there, this conversion does not take place. So the carbohydrate that you eat is not fully converted as energy. Thus, there is some amount of excess glucose which will have to get converted as fat and get stored in the body. Right? So that is about vitamin B12. And it's very common. B12 deficiency is very common among vegetarians because B12 is rich in non-veg foods. So that's why many vegetarians, if you check B12 for them, they have a deficiency. So we have to give them a supplement and correct it. So that's about vitamin B12. And the final one is your vitamin D. So vitamin D, like your thyroid, vitamin D is the decision-making vitamin. So he decides which vitamin or which hormone, whatever, should go do its work. So when D is not there, again, just like thyroid, it's a similar version. So when D is not there, again, metabolism becomes haphazard. So that's why we are very specific. So if you see in India, if you check anybody's, we feel that we are living in India, it's a very hot, it's a very sunny country, we are exposed to sunlight. But if you check randomly anybody, if I pick 5 people from this group and I do a blood test, out of 5, 4 will have vitamin D deficiency. Or to my surprise, all the 5 might have vitamin D deficiency because the sun rays that falls on our country is not in a proper angle. So since it's not in a proper angle, it's not rich in vitamin D. So that's the reason why Indians are having vitamin D deficiency. So if you so Abdina, will I not get vitamin D at all? If that's the question, you will get some amount of vitamin D, but you need to go expose yourself in sunlight between 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. But that's the time where we are all stuck with work. We are all stuck indoors, except for physical directors. All the other teachers, we are all stuck inside the classroom, busy with the students, taking class. And now we are all stuck at home, sitting in front of the laptop. And after school also, we are all, I know all of you are bound to the thing because you have to correct assignments, give them tests and things like that. So we don't really go expose ourselves from the 10 a.m., 3 p.m. sun rays. So that's another reason why, we don't get. And now people started using sunscreen lotion. So when you apply sunscreen lotion, even if you go stand from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. under the sunlight, there is no vitamin D formation going to happen on your skin because you have applied a cream that's going to stop the process. So today, because of the clothing that we wear formal, sometimes we wear full sleeves, or very commonly seen in Muslims who wear parda. So these are certain things that's why Indians, to our surprise, have vitamin D deficiency. So it's very important. So you have to correct all of these parameters. Let it be hemoglobin. It can be as simple as asking the person to eat some iron-rich foods. கீரை டெய்லி கீரை சாப்பிடுங்கன்னு சொல்றதுலேருந்து ஒரு சப்ளிமெண்ட் கொடுக்குற வரைக்கும் நம்ம ஃபோக்கஸ் பண்ணினா இட்ஸ் very, very easy to correct these deficiencies. So these are the two major aspects of how you should take care of your health. So this is now slowly picking up. A lot of dietitians, young dietitians, are now learning and they are doing this. And no more people stick on to the old school method. And now people are again going back to traditions, which is very, very nice. And food habits are changing. So thanks to lockdown, I would say. And so first, I told you how you can self-analyze. Second is when you come to a professional, how we will help you analyze. So with these in mind, you can definitely take up a professional help, follow a proper diet, follow a proper exercise regime, have a good sleep. I'm sure you can lead a very healthy life. So I think I'm done with my presentation. So the session is now open for questions. So anybody has any doubts, you can ask me.
Yeah, ma'am, they have sent some questions in the stream. Any points about hemoglobin? One person is asking any points about hemoglobin.
Hemoglobin, like I explained now in detail, ma'am, that you need to have a proper hemoglobin level because it is very important to carry the nutrients around. So if you are anemic, it's very important you correct it because it is not only going to make you gain weight, but it is also going to affect your daily routine because people with low hemoglobin level can feel very tired very quickly. They may have breathlessness, they may have lack of concentration. So it's very, very important that you have check on your hemoglobin level once in 3 months for sure, at least once in 6 months.
Okay. One of them have asked about the pimples in the skin. Pimples.
Okay.
Yeah.
Skin care is very simple. If you don't drink enough water, your skin health is gone. So you have to drink ample amount of water, and it's a wrong practice that 1 liter or gulpla kudipanga. That's wrong, right? You need to keep your body hydrated through the day. So keep sipping water through the day. Have a minimum of 3 liters of water. It can go up to even 5 liters. So when you drink enough water, you will definitely see wonderful results on your skin. You don't really have to go for any specialized diet or specialized supplements to get your skin to glow. It's very easy. Drink lot of water, eat lot of carrots. These two are more than enough for good skin.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. One more, something they've asked. And in the nose near the holes, it gets darker and the skin automatically removes. And again, it happens like a cycle, like that somebody is asking.
Yeah, that's basically because of the skin dryness. Your skin is not hydrated well. So it's getting dried up and it keeps peeling. So peel aga, it becomes darker. So that's the reason.
Okay. Any other questions?
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, why do we get palpitations, ma'am?
See, palpitations can happen when you have less amount of hemoglobin in your body. That's also one of the signs and symptoms. Less amount of iron, less amount of serum ferritin. So these are all related with your oxygen supply. Okay. hemoglobin, iron, and ferritin, they don't just carry nutrient, they also take oxygen to the cells and bring back the carbon dioxide to the lungs. So when these three are not under proper control, yes, you can have palpitations. Yes, when you have thyroid issues and things like that, see, those are all extra symptoms of a particular disease condition. But this is a very common reason why someone can feel palpitate.
Ma'am, and how to stop that palpitations, ma'am?
See, palpitation, like I said, first you get a blood test done. If you have if you feel all your blood parameters are normal, then I think you should go for a medical help, because you need to see if it's something to do with your heart, right? So if it's an old person, then yes, it is definitely related to the heart, because the heart muscles are not really strong enough. So there are certain supplements that you can give for an elderly person or even middle-aged person, because it's an enzyme called coenzyme Q10. Okay, so you can supplement that. That basically strengthens your heart muscle. Okay, so there are various reasons for palpitation. If you're very specific, then yes, if you feel from a nutritionist point of view, if I feel your blood parameters are normal, then I will definitely suggest you to go meet a doctor. So you definitely need to take a medical help.
Okay, one person has asked, like, what is a better way to increase vitamin D in our body, because it is less in food.
See, vitamin D, like I said, try and expose yourself from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. for a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes. And you can have foods like milk, eggs, yes, but they are all very minimal. If your levels are very, very low, then you have to take a supplement, vitamin D supplement, which is available in your any pharmacy. It's just like your multivitamin tablet. These come as sachets, they come as a powder. So you will have to take one sachet per week. Depending on what is your range. If your value is less than 10, then you need to take it for about 8 weeks. If your value is between 10 and 20, then I will put you on for 4 weeks. And then we repeat tests and then we decide. So it totally depends on what is your vitamin D value in your blood.
One of our teachers have asked, what is hyperpigmentation? Does this have anything to do with the blood?
See, when you have too much of toxins in your body, we don't really, today people don't really detox themselves very often. So we eat outside, we are too stressed, we don't really sleep well. So what happens is, every process that happens in the body is an oxidation process. So end of the oxidation process, the body releases a lot of free radicals. And end of our digestion, there are a lot of toxins that's been released in the body. If these are not flushed out of the body, it will show up on your skin as hyperpigmentation. You can reduce that by detoxing. Quite often. You can either detox on a daily basis, or you can do a 3-day detox, 1 week detox, or every week 1 day detox. So there are a lot of methods to detox yourself. But keep drinking a lot of water. If your body is too acidic, also there are chances for this to happen. So acidity also happens if your body is too acidic. That is also because of water. So you need to drink a lot of water to keep the alkaline pH or the neutral pH. So these are the reasons.
Okay, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Yes.
are there any certain ages at which body's metabolism slows down?
As you age, the metabolism goes down. But when you start putting on weight, when there is more of fat deposition in the body, metabolism goes down. Or if you are having any particular health issues, any particular disease or something like your hypothyroidism, things like that, your metabolism can go down. So the metabolism can go down for various reasons.
Okay, ma'am. Somebody is asking, like, at which age do we get heart attacks? One of the students have asked.
It's unpredictable these days. It comes at 30 itself, so you do not know when it comes. So
Yeah.
try to be very healthy, try to focus on what you eat, try to focus on being physically active. So I think that's the only way, and try to, have a control over your stress, because it's stress is ranking 1 today for heart attacks. So don't take things too much to your head and heart, so stay calm, try to handle things. So that's the only way.
One of the teachers have asked how to get out toxins.
Getting out toxins is by drinking water through the day, or you can have certain detox drinks like celery pineapple juice, or it can be as simple as lime water, but do not add honey to it. So wake up in the morning, warm water, add a little lime to it, and just drink that. So that is one simple detox drink. You can have apple cider vinegar mixed in water along with some lime. So there are a lot of detox drinks that's there, and keep eating a lot of fruits. You should eat fruits. Don't drink it as juice. Okay, so eating fruits that is more contains what do I say? A lot of antioxidants like your berries, kiwi. You can have apple. Apple is also good because apple is low in calories. You can have pineapple. You can have you can actually eat good amount of cucumber, because cucumber is very low in calories and it also has good amount of water content in it. So you can do all of these. You can detox yourself on a daily basis. You should detox yourself every day morning as soon as you wake up. So it can be as simple as drinking 1 glass of lime water with no sugar and salt, just plain lime water.
Okay, ma'am. How to cure thyroid? Somebody has asked.
Thyroid is something that you can't cure. Thyroid is something that once it comes, you got to live with it. It's something like your diabetes. You can only keep thyroid under control. So one is you have to take your medicines definitely on a daily basis. Only the dosage can be adjusted. If your thyroid is under control, they'll put you on a very minimal dosage. If it's not under control, they will increase the dosage based on the value. And proper diet and exercise, because when you have thyroid, there are chances for you to gain weight. So for you to avoid that, you need to follow a proper diet and a proper exercise.
Okay, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, good evening.
Ma'am, can you tell about some points or facts about the persons who are undernourished?
Undernourished.
Yes, ma'am.
See, undernourishment happens again when you have certain hidden factors, like if it's children. I don't know if you guys have heard of deworming them on a very consistent basis. So it's very important to do that, because you need to have a proper gut bacteria maintained. And undernourishment can happen when your metabolism. There are few people whose metabolism is very high. Unimaginably high. They can even eat 2 biryanis and 3 times a day, and they will not even gain 1 gram of weight. So unimaginably high metabolism. For us to see, weight gain is more tougher than weight loss for us. So to make somebody gain 1 kg of weight is very, very tough, because you need to really handle that high metabolism for them. So these are things, and undernutrition can also result in other associated issues, because they may have certain micronutrient deficiencies. So because of that, they may have other symptoms. So you need to handle them holistically. I just can't focus on their weight alone. I can't just focus on gaining their weight, but I need to focus them holistically. Are you undernourished, by the way, Karthik?
No, ma'am.
No, okay.
No.
Ma'am, what do you think about that apple cider vinegar? I mean, they do a mixture, no? They do make a mixture of that apple cider vinegar, garlic, ginger, and honey, lemon, all this, and like this is good for heart, like that they say. So, what do you think about it?
Apple cider vinegar is a really good choice. It's considered as a superfood, and they act as a detox, and they also have an effect on fat loss. So apple cider vinegar, if you see scientifically, it is said that it has a effect on your appetite. So it tries to control your hunger. So that's why we suggest anybody who wants to take apple cider vinegar, they need to take that mixture 15 minutes before their meal. So what happens? It works on their appetite and tries to control the hunger. So that way, they try to control over the portion size, and the end of it comes. And when you take apple cider vinegar in an empty stomach, yes, it will have a detox effect. And adding ginger, garlic, and lime, excellent, because all of it will improve your digestive function. It reduces bloating. If you have gas problems, too much of burping or flatus because of when your gut is not fine, all these will happen. When you're burping too much, also it is the wrong sign that you have a very bad gut. So it is definitely a good option as a detox drink, also for fat loss.
There is one question, who is, again and again asking, and he's saying how to control anger, ma'am. Again and again he's asking that. One of the student.
See, anger, yes, again, when you our gut and emotions are linked. So when you have a good gut functioning, especially your gut flora, if it is normal and you're able to eat food fine, you're eating food on time, it is getting utilized to the body, you have proper sleep pattern, all of it will progress you towards a positive mental health. Wherein if any of it is not fine, you go towards a negative mental health. So anger is just one expression of your negative mental health. So first, it is not about controlling your anger. It's about it, which means your body is signaling that something is not fine. So you got to take care of it. It can either be proper food, it can be proper sleep, it can be drinking enough water, or it can be as simple as eating on time. Okay, you may not be eating on time. You are supposed to give food. So anything and everything is totally related to your body holistically. So anger management from a nutritionist point of view, I will tell you only these. I'll tell you, eat proper food, sleep really well, keep yourself hydrated, and try to stay calm. So when you do all of these, what happens is your brain is getting continuous, consistent fuel. Okay, so when there is consistent, continuous fueling, you're able to think well. If you're not eating, you're starving, you're not sleeping well, then your brain is not able to think. So it's better you take care of yourself holistically. Anger will automatically come under your control.
Ma'am, one of the teachers... Yeah, you continue.
Ma'am,
yes.
Why we are getting white spots on our body?
See, white spots can be it can be an indication of what do I say? One is it can be some bacterial infection, or it can be some micronutrient deficiency. It can be a vitamin mineral deficiency. So these are the possible reasons why you may get white spots. If you have topical infection, bacterial or viral infection, you get those spots. So if it is that, then you need to get a dermatology assessment done.
Okay, ma'am, one of the teachers have asked, is it safe to consume apple cider vinegar when we have stomach ulcers?
No, it might trigger because it is vinegar, so they can't have it in empty stomach. So I would definitely not suggest if somebody has ulcers, I will not ask them to take apple cider vinegar. It might trigger and it might make the ulcers a little bad.
Okay, ma'am, one last question. What to do for stamina?
Yes.
One of the students have asked. What to do for stamina?
What to do for?
Stamina. Yeah.
Okay. Stamina is something that comes when you are consistently fueling the body, but the right kind of fuel you give. If you're gonna eat too much of a fatty food, you're gonna be too sloppy. If you're gonna give too much of sugar to the body, you become too active. So it is the kind of food that you give, and also you can't have any. Your blood chemistry has to be fine. If your blood chemistry is not fine, say you have less amount of hemoglobin, then yes, you start feeling very tired and you're not going to have good energy levels. So there are a lot of factors, and yes, you need to have proper. See, the answer is very simple for everything. It's proper sleep. The 5 points that I spoke about during the start of my presentation. See, those are the 5 key points that I have in mind when I deal with a client. If I'm able to achieve positive results for those 5 points, then yes, my client is hale and healthy. It's as simple as that. So eat properly, drink a lot of water. Make sure your gut is functioning well, make sure you hydrate yourself, and keep calm. So that's the only thing. And exercise well. That's all.
Ma'am, everyone is saying wonderful session, and thank you so much for, the questions, the answers which you gave.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It was great being part of this today. Thank you, Abhita ma'am, for inviting me.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
With you and the school in future.
Thank you so much, madam, for sharing the tips and tricks to keep ourselves healthy. I'm sure all the students will follow your instructions. At last, thank you so much, everyone, for watching our webinar. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.